You do not open your eyes. You have none. You do not take a breath. You have no lungs. You are simply aware. A dim, crushing pressure is your entire universe. You are a warm, coiled knot of potential violence, suspended in the silent, salty darkness of the womb. It is, for a brief, beautiful moment, peaceful. And then, it ends. The world convulses. The gentle, muffling fluid that has been your entire reality is ripped away, replaced by a violent, chaotic flood. You are expelled unceremoniously into a cold, shockingly bright, and very wet world. A harsh, alien pressure squeezes you from all sides. Your first instinct, an ancient command baked into your very being, is to move. You twist your long, serpentine body, unfurl your powerful tail fluke, and with a desperate flick, you propel yourself upwards, towards a shimmering, wavering ceiling. Your first breath is not a gasp of air, but a forced gulp of salt water that burns with 1,000 tiny lives and the waste of 1,000,000 others. You have been born. Ah, yes. Consciousness returns to the ocean's most gloriously violent dead end. Official designation: Mosasaurus hoffmanni. But you are known to the world, or at least the very small, very terrified part of the world that is about to witness you, simply as the Mosasaur. A name that means lizard of the Meuse River, which is a dreadfully boring title for what you are. A better definition would be a self-propelled torpedo of teeth and bad intentions. Congratulations on your birth. Your first existential crisis is deciding whether the colossal shadow looming above you, the very creature that just gave you life, is about to immediately revoke that privilege. She is your mother. A 50-foot engine of destruction, her body scarred from 1,000 territorial disputes and ill-advised mating encounters. The ordeal of birthing you and your dozens of siblings has left her exhausted and famished. You look up into her cold, reptilian eye, an orb the size of a dinner plate, and you see no maternal warmth. You see only a flicker of cold, primal calculation. She is weighing the energy expended in creating you against the potential energy gained by eating you. It is your first lesson in Cretaceous economics, and the tuition is steep. Your siblings are no help. They are not your playmates. They are your direct competitors in the don't get eaten by mom sweepstakes. Each one is a wriggling, miniature version of you, all thrashing to escape the immediate vicinity of their creator. It's a frantic, silent scramble, a race away from the starting line that is also the finish line for the slowest among you. One of your brothers, a little too slow, a little too confused, is engulfed in a swirl of water and teeth. There is no sentiment. There is only stimulus and response. The stimulus was a small, struggling creature. The response was lunch. You waste no time mourning your departed sibling. You use the momentary distraction to paddle your flippers with a desperate fury, pushing yourself away from the monstrous, floating buffet that is your own mother. Welcome to the Western Interior Seaway, the vast, shallow sea covering the heart of North America. It is an endless, featureless expanse of water, offering no quarter and no place to hide. It's the equivalent of being born in the middle of a crowded motorway during rush hour, and you are a very small, very soft-skinned vehicle. As a juvenile, you are laughably small, a mere 10 feet of vulnerable, swimming meat. Your skin, which will one day be a thick, scaly armor, is currently soft and easily torn. You are a morsel, an appetizer on the grand menu of the late Cretaceous. And everything is hungry. Your world is a gallery of gaping mouths and predatory eyes, a constant, dizzying ballet of avoidance. There are the true giants, of course, the established tyrants of this realm. The massive shark, Cretoxarina, the Ginsu shark, glides through the middle depths, its rows of serrated teeth perfectly designed to slice creatures like you into manageable chunks. It is a sleek, gray torpedo of death that can appear out of the hazy blue with terrifying speed. Then there are the other mosasaurs, your larger, more successful cousins. The truly immense Tylosaurus, a monstrous predator that dwarfs even your own mother, patrols the open waters. To him, you are not family. You are a territorial nuisance at best, a convenient snack at worst. You wouldn't hesitate to devour a distant, smaller relative. Cannibalism isn't a taboo here. It's a practical solution to both hunger and competition. But the monsters aren't just the famous ones. Your life is a constant state of alert, a low-grade, perpetual terror. There are the giant, saber-toothed fish, the Zoophanctinus, their bulldog-like faces and enormous, spike-like teeth making them look like a demon's nightmare of a tarpon. They are ambush predators, lurking in the gloom below, waiting for a foolish youngster like you to silhouette yourself against the bright surface. To survive this, you have developed a single, overriding strategy. It is not courage. It is not cunning. It is the art of cowardice. Your entire existence is governed by the nope maneuver. You see a shadow that's a little too big, a little too fast. You nope right out of there, your tail pumping with a frantic energy that borders on hysteria. It's the Cretaceous equivalent of frantically closing all your browser tabs when your boss walks by. It's not a plan. It's a panic response that, through sheer probability, occasionally works. You haunt the shallower coastal waters, the sprawling reefs made of giant, extinct oysters and clams. Here, there are more places to hide, more crevices to dart into, more visual clutter to break up your outline. The open ocean is suicide. The coast is merely a place where death has to work a little harder to find you. Of course, you cannot flee forever. You must eat. And to eat, you must learn to hunt. This is where your journey takes a turn from tragedy to pure, unadulterated slapstick. Your targets are the small, fast-moving fish that swarm in the sunlit waters, the jet-propelled squid, and the hard-shelled ammonites that drift through the water column like ornate, spiral-shaped rocks. Your first attempts are pathetic. You lunge at a shimmering school of fish, only to completely misjudge the refraction of the light through the water's surface. You end up with a mouthful of nothing but warm, salty water and the distinct feeling of being judged by creatures with brains the size of a grain of sand. You try to snap at a squid, but it vanishes in a puff of ink, leaving you disoriented and momentarily blinded, a perfect target for any larger predator that might be watching your embarrassing display. Your hunting prowess is currently on par with a house cat trying to catch the red dot on a wall. There's much flailing, a complete lack of dignity, and a shockingly low success rate. The only thing you're killing is time. Then there are the ammonites. These creatures are your nemesis, your culinary Everest. They are encased in a thick, beautifully coiled shell, a masterpiece of natural architecture. Your instinct tells you there's nutritious, soft flesh inside. Your brain, still learning the physics of your own jaw, tells you to simply crush it. So you try. You clamp your jaws around the ammonite shell and bite down with all your might. The shell, perfected by millions of years of evolution to withstand immense water pressure, does not yield. Instead, a jarring, painful shock reverberates through your skull. You've just tried to eat a piece of biological ceramic. You retreat with a sore jaw and the distinct feeling that you've been mocked by a mollusk. Slowly, painfully, through trial and excruciating error, you learn. You learn to ambush from below. You learn to use your second set of teeth, the pterygoid teeth on your palate, to grip struggling prey and prevent its escape down your gullet. You learn to slam shelled prey against rocks to crack them, rather than trying to crush them in your mouth. You are surviving. Somehow, against all odds, you make it. The years of frantic fleeing and clumsy hunting pay off. You grow and grow and grow. The awkward 10-footer becomes a formidable 20-footer. The 20-footer becomes a terrifying 30-footer. Eventually, you stop growing somewhere north of 50 feet long. You are no longer a snack. You are the entire banquet. Your body is a multi-ton behemoth of muscle and bone, a living submarine of reptilian fury. Your head is the size of a small car, a hydrodynamic battering ram designed for one purpose: to crush. Your jaws, once clumsy and ineffective, are now lined with enormous, conical teeth, each one a railroad spike of sharpened bone. Your tail has become a massive, powerful fluke, capable of propelling you through the water with terrifying bursts of speed. You have become an apex predator. You are the tyrant of the seas. The world has inverted. The sharks that once hunted you now flee from your shadow. You eat them now. You hunt down the giants of Actinus and swallow them whole. You snatch giant sea turtles Archelon from the surface, their massive shells cracking like eggshells in your jaws. You even target other, lesser mosasaurs, your own distant kin, with a cold, dispassionate hunger. There is no camaraderie among predators, only a brutal hierarchy. And you are now at the top. On a whim, you will rocket up from the depths to snatch a low-flying pterosaur, like a pteranodon, from the sky, dragging it down into the water in a chaotic explosion of spray and feathers. The sea is your personal, all-you-can-eat buffet, and the menu is endless. You have made it. You are the aquatic equivalent of a morally bankrupt CEO. You are bloated, powerful, and you consume everything in your path with zero remorse. Life, it seems, is finally good. You have achieved a state of perfect, unassailable security. Or so you think. Just as you reach the absolute pinnacle of your power, just when the daily threat of being eaten has completely vanished, a new, more insidious problem emerges. It is a problem born not of danger, but of its complete absence. It is the sucky, soul-crushing burden of absolute power, the pointless bureaucracy of territorial defense, and the violent, ugly business of mating. Your life, once a thrilling drama of survival, has become a dreary, repetitive, and deeply miserable opera of dominance. Your existence has become the prehistoric version of a bitter, violent neighborhood dispute over a fence line that doesn't even exist. Your kingdom is a vast, featureless patch of water, indistinguishable from any other patch of water, yet you will defend it to the death. Why? Because it is yours. Another huge, male mosasaur, a carbon copy of yourself, will drift into your perceived territory. He is not necessarily trying to steal your food. The ocean is vast and full of prey. He is not necessarily trying to steal your mates. He is simply there. And that is an offense that cannot be tolerated. The ensuing battle is not a graceful display of power. It is a messy, brutal brawl. You slam into each other like runaway freight trains, jaws agape. You bite, you tear, you gouge. You use your massive heads as battering rams, attempting to stun or disorient your rival. You leave deep, gouging tooth marks on each other's snouts and skulls, wounds that will fester and scar, permanent reminders of these pointless conflicts. You fight not for survival, but for the principle of the thing. You fight because you are a big, aggressive animal with a brain hardwired for violence, and there is no one left to fight but yourselves. And then there is the mating. These are not romantic affairs. They are violent, scarring, and deeply unpleasant. A female enters your territory, and you approach. But so do other males. The result is another chaotic free-for-all, a swirling vortex of multi-ton reptiles biting and ramming each other for the privilege of passing on their genes. The female herself is not a passive participant. She is just as large and aggressive as you are, and she will inflict serious injury on any suitor she deems unworthy. The act itself is a clumsy, dangerous affair, a thrashing, biting ballet that often leaves both parties with new wounds. All this for what? To produce a new generation of offspring, most of whom will be eaten within their first week, and the lucky few who survive will be doomed to repeat the exact same pointless, violent cycle. The peak of your existence is not a paradise of power. It's a hell of your own making, a tedious, endless loop of meaningless violence. The years, measured in seasons of plankton blooms and shifting currents, begin to take their toll. Your power, once absolute, begins to fade. It's a slow, humiliating, and inevitable decline. Your teeth, the formidable weapons that defined your reign, are now worn down to blunt knobs. Some are broken, others have fallen out entirely, leaving pathetic gaps in your once perfect grin. A deep, persistent ache settles into your massive joints. Arthritis, the great equalizer, stiffens your flippers and spine. Your explosive bursts of speed are gone, replaced by a ponderous, labored swimming. You are no longer the sleek torpedo of death. You are a weary, leaking old battleship. Your status plummets. The younger, stronger, more aggressive males, perfect, arrogant copies of your former self, begin to encroach on your territory. At first, you can drive them off with a display of aggression, a ghost of your former fury. But soon, the displays are not enough. They challenge you directly. You can no longer win these brutal, head-ramming contests. Your blows lack their former force, your jaws their crushing power. They drive you from your hunting grounds, the prime real estate of the sea you fought so hard to control. You are pushed to the margins, forced to scavenge for scraps or hunt smaller, less desirable prey. You become a relic, a ghost haunting the edges of the action, watching the next generation play out the same bloody drama you once starred in. You are no longer the king, you are has been. Your final confrontation is not a noble battle. It is not a dramatic last stand against a worthy foe. It is a pathetic inevitability, a final, humiliating footnote to your long reign. Perhaps it's that young, prime adult, the one who finally drove you from your territory for good. He doesn't hunt you for food. He simply sees you as a final piece of old business to be concluded, an annoying remnant of a past regime. The fight is short and brutally one-sided. You are too slow, too weak, too tired. Or perhaps it's even more ignominious. A large Cretoxarina shark, a member of a species you once terrorized with impunity, senses your weakness. It has been shadowing you for days, waiting for the perfect moment. It attacks not with a frontal assault, but with a cowardly raid from below, tearing at your fins, your tail, crippling you before going in for the kill. A creature you would have scorned and devoured in your prime becomes your executioner. And so it ends. Your reign concludes not with a thunderous roar that shakes the seas, but with a final, gurgling breath as your lungs fill with water. The light from the surface, once your hunting ground, fades to a dim, distant memory. Your immense body, once the undisputed terror of the Cretaceous Ocean, goes limp. You begin your final, slow descent into the crushing darkness of the abyss, a silent, multi-ton monument to futility. You become the largest, most tragic piece of chum in history. Your carcass is a banquet for the scavengers you never gave a second thought to in life. The hagfish, the sleeper sharks, the giant isopods of the deep. They strip you down to the bone with a dispassionate efficiency. The ocean, your great kingdom, your battlefield, your pantry, does not notice your passing. It doesn't care. It simply absorbs your remains back into its endless, indifferent chemistry. As your story ends, as the last of your flesh is picked clean from your colossal skeleton in the crushing, silent dark, the camera of our narrative pans upwards, miles away, back to the sunlit surface. A female mosasaur, your direct descendant, gives birth. A tiny, terrified version of you, a fresh new copy of your own genetic blueprint for misery, takes its first gulp of salt water. It immediately has to dodge the snapping jaws of a hungry fish. The whole pointless, violent, and magnificent opera is beginning anew, the overture playing for another life of struggle and temporary triumph. Your existence was a violent, repetitive, and ultimately meaningless cosmic joke. But don't worry, it's about to get worse. So, that was your life. A brief, 65-million-year-old story of aquatic brutality and futility. You'd think being the apex predator of the planet's oceans would be the peak of existence. You would be wrong. But just as your species was perfecting the art of being a magnificent, terrifying failure, the universe threw in a plot twist. A 6-mile-wide rock falling from the sky. It's called the KPG extinction event, a rather sterile name for the day the world caught fire. For you, this was the end, a rather definitive one. But your tragedy didn't stop there. It just went dormant, buried under millions of years of rock and sediment. And while you were sleeping, a new kind of monster evolved. A scrawny, clever, and infinitely more problematic ape. And that's when your personal, biological tragedy was dug up, dusted off, and given a second, even more humiliating life as a historical catastrophe. This is your silent legacy. When the first of these apes, a Bronze Age farmer, a Celtic mystic, a wandering Greek philosopher, stumbled upon your fossilized jawbone eroding from a European hillside, they did not see a prehistoric marine reptile. They couldn't have. The very concept was unthinkable, a heresy against the neat, tidy world they believed they inhabited. What they saw was proof. Proof of the monsters that lurked in the dark corners of their maps and their minds. Your perfectly evolved hydrodynamic form, a masterpiece of biological engineering forged in the crucible of an ancient ocean, is completely lost on them. Your skull is not a skull. It is the head of a dragon slain by a mythical hero in a story their grandfather told them. Your long, curved vertebrae, unearthed one by one from a riverbank, are not a spinal column. They are the bones of the giants who walked the earth before a great, world-cleansing flood. Your entire identity, everything you were, is instantly and completely hijacked to serve as a B-list prop in their flimsy, self-aggrandizing folklore. Your new divine status, however, is significantly less glamorous than it sounds. Your massive, fossilized tooth, a weapon once capable of punching through the shell of a giant sea turtle, is now a good luck charm. It dangles from a shaman's sweaty neck, clinking against other bits of bone and polished stone, its true purpose utterly forgotten. Or worse, it's taken by a village healer, who meticulously grinds your magnificent enamel into a fine gray dust. This dust is then mixed with herbs and wine and sold to aging chieftains as a guaranteed cure for impotence. Your power, the very essence of your predatory dominance, has been reduced to a primitive form of Viagra. Being worshipped, it turns out, does not prevent your sacred bones from being used as a very sturdy, if somewhat morbid, stool in a hut. Your fossilized femur makes for an excellent anvil on which to hammer out bronze trinkets. The gap between your terrifying, living reality and your new career as a piece of primitive furniture is, to put it mildly, substantial. You become collateral damage in their war against logic. Your very existence in the rock record becomes a convenient, fossilized obstacle to any genuine understanding of the world. Why question that the earth is only a few thousand years old when the dragon bones in the hills seem to prove that your ancient myths are literal history? Why contemplate the vast, terrifying emptiness of deep time when your skeleton can be neatly explained away as a casualty of a god's temper tantrum? You, a clue to the planet's epic, violent, and almost unimaginably long history, are instead used as a full stop. You are a silent accomplice in their steadfast refusal to see a world older, stranger, and infinitely more interesting than their comforting stories allowed. Your first posthumous interaction with humanity was to have your magnificent remains completely misunderstood and used as set dressing for their supernatural delusions. Your legacy was not one of awe, but of profound, almost willful, misinterpretation. You were a chapter of Earth's autobiography that they tore out and used to scribble down their own fanfiction. The centuries grind on. The apes get clever. Their villages become towns. Their towns become cities. Their myths become organized religions. The world of superstition begins to give way to an age of inquiry. But for you, it is merely a lateral move in indignity. It is the 1770s. In a chalk quarry near Maastricht, in the Netherlands, workmen unearthed something extraordinary. It is your skull. Not just a fragment, but a nearly complete 5-foot-long skull beautifully preserved. You are no longer a dragon. You are now a specimen, a puzzle. You are taken to the home of a local surgeon and fossil collector, a man named Hoffman, who correctly identifies you as the remains of some great, unknown animal. You are studied by bewigged men in academies, who argue endlessly about what you could possibly be: a crocodile, a whale, a freak of nature. You are the talk of the town, a local celebrity. Then, the French Revolutionary Army, high on its recent successes and its belief in its own cultural superiority, marches in and lays siege to the city. Your fame has preceded you. The French generals, eager to populate their new National Museum in Paris with the world's treasures, specifically demand your skull as part of the city's surrender terms. When the local authorities hide you, the French offer a reward of 600 bottles of wine for your recovery. You are found, seized, and transported to Paris with great fanfare. Congratulations. You've been promoted. You are no longer a local myth or a scientific curiosity. You are now a geopolitical trophy, a spoil of war. Your skull, a marvel of natural selection, becomes a symbol of French scientific and military dominance. You are less an animal and more an item in a nationalistic custody battle, a bony emblem of conquest. In Paris, you are brought to the Jardin des Plantes, the National Museum of Natural History. There, you come under the gaze of a man who will change your legacy forever, Georges Cuvier. He is brilliant, ambitious, and the father of a new, revolutionary science called comparative anatomy. He looks at your jaws, your teeth, your fenestrine, and he sees not a crocodile or a whale, but something entirely new, a giant marine lizard from a lost world. But Cuvier does something more. By comparing your anatomy to that of all living animals, he comes to a stark, terrifying, and world-altering conclusion. There is nothing like you alive today. You are not just from a different place. You are from a different time. A time that has vanished completely. You, a fossilized skull sitting on a dusty table in Paris, become the irrefutable proof of a concept that shatters a worldview thousands of years old. You are the proof of extinction. Your new job title is Extinction's Poster Child. You are given a name, Mosasaurus, the lizard of the Meuse River. You are no longer a creature. You are a concept, a revolution. Your tragic species-wide demise 65 million years ago becomes the foundational evidence for the science of paleontology. Your bones are used to build the careers of men like Cuvier, to shatter the religious dogma that insisted on the permanence of God's creation, and to fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its own place in a history that was suddenly, terrifyingly, deeper than anyone had ever imagined. You are the star witness in the case against eternity. Your discovery and the shocking idea it represents ignite a bone rush. Suddenly, the race is on to find more monsters from this lost world. The quiet chalk beds of Kansas, in the middle of America, turn out to be a fossil graveyard, the floor of the very sea you once ruled. And the paleontologists who flock there, men like Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh, are not gentle scholars. They are bitter, vicious rivals, and they descend upon your relatives' graves with a competitive fury. Your skeletons, and those of your cousins the Tylosaurus and the Platecarpus, are not excavated with care. They are blasted out of the rock with dynamite. Skulls are crushed, ribs are shattered, vertebrae are lost. It is a race for quantity, not quality. The goal is to get the biggest, most impressive skeletons back to the museums in the East before the other guy can. The progress of science, from the perspective of your fossilized remains, feels remarkably like a violent, sustained assault. The skeletons that do make it back to the museums are often incomplete. But that doesn't stop them. Missing bones are fabricated from plaster or, even worse, cobbled together from the skeletons of other individuals, or even other species. Your skeletons are mounted in museums in dramatic, snarling poses that you never could have achieved in life. Your tail, which in reality had a shark-like fluke for efficient swimming, is often depicted as a long, snake-like paddle, making you look more like a clumsy eel than the powerful predator you were. All in the name of making you a more monstrous, more thrilling exhibit for the paying public. You helped them discover the epic history of life on Earth, and they thanked you by giving you terrible posture and sticking you in a dusty, poorly lit hall for the next 2 centuries. Your second great legacy, then, is to be celebrated for your own desecration. You were ripped from your eternal, silent rest to provide the raw material for their new, exciting science. They learned about the concept of extinction from you, a lesson they would immediately, and with horrifying efficiency, begin applying to countless other, still living species. The buffalo, the passenger pigeon, the great auk, they all followed you into the great, silent void, their journey expedited by the very same apes who are now mounting your bones as a testament to their own cleverness. Your tragedy became their textbook, a manual they followed with grim precision. The ultimate irony is that you, the poster child for a world lost to time, became the silent herald for a new wave of extinction, this one driven not by a random act of cosmic violence, in the form of an asteroid, but by the systematic, industrialized rapacity of humankind. The decades tick by. The industrial world gives way to the technological world, and you are rediscovered once again. But this time, Your resurrection will not take place in a museum hall or a scientific paper. It will take place on a server farm in California. Science, by the 21st century, has a pretty good idea of what you looked like, how you moved, and how you lived. But science, they've decided, is boring. Pop culture is not. And so, you are reborn, not in the sea, but in a computer rendered from millions of polygons of digital light. You have been recast. You are no longer a specimen, a concept, or a trophy. You are now a movie monster. You are the star of a summer blockbuster, the shark-eating spectacle that makes the audience spill their popcorn. You are a plastic toy, crudely molded and sealed in a plastic bag, given away with a children's meal. You are a boss in a video game, an obstacle to be overcome by a teenager with a controller. In this new incarnation, your scientific accuracy is the first casualty. It is casually, almost gleefully, jettisoned in favor of something called the rule of cool. Your size is exaggerated to absurd proportions. You are depicted leaping from the water like a gargantuan dolphin to snatch a great white shark, an act of cartoonish physics that would have likely broken your own back. You are shown battling other, equally fictional monsters in a CGI-drenched frenzy. Your name is now less associated with the brilliant, world-changing work of Georges Cuvier and more with the rugged, marketable charm of a Hollywood actor named Chris Pratt. You have been reduced from an apex predator, a marvel of evolution that ruled a planet, to a piece of intellectual property. Your very being has been copyrighted. Your new purpose, your final job, is to inspire not awe or scientific curiosity, but guilt-free consumption. You exist now to sell tickets, to make a theme park feel more epic, to be the star of a 3D movie where you lunge at the screen, causing people to jump in their seats before they go back to quietly munching on their overpriced candy. Your terrifying power, your majesty, your millions of years of evolutionary struggle, it has all been focus grouped, sanitized, storyboarded, and packaged for mass consumption. The complex reality of your existence has been flattened into a single, marketable trait. You are big, and you eat things. You are no longer an animal. You are a carefully managed asset in a multi-billion-dollar global entertainment portfolio. Your final, posthumous purpose is to generate revenue for the descendants of the same species that would have fainted from sheer terror at the very sight of you. This new, global fame is a strange kind of prison, a cage made of pixels and plastic. Your fictional, movie monster self has become so pervasive, so dominant in the public consciousness, that it has completely overwritten your reality. When a new fossil discovery is made, a new study published that suggests you are more complex, more nuanced, or perhaps less cartoonishly oversized than your cinematic depiction, it is met with a collective shrug. The public doesn't care about the real you. They care about the one that eats sharks. You are trapped in the amber of pop culture. Your legacy now so defined by what you weren't that no one has any interest in what you were. You have become a permanent exhibit in the Museum of Global Consciousness, but the information placard next to you wasn't written by a paleontologist. It was written by a marketing department in Burbank, California. The collateral damage of this final transformation is the quiet erosion of truth. The line between what was real and what was invented for a movie becomes hopelessly blurred. A generation of children will now grow up believing that mosasaurs were twice their actual size and behaved like trained circus animals. Your name becomes a synonym for awesome CGI monster, losing its connection to the real, breathing, struggling creature that once dominated the Earth's oceans. This is the prison of popularity. You are beloved, but you are not known. You are famous, but you are a fiction. The very apes who once mistook you for a dragon are now mistaking you for a special effect, which, in many ways, is an even greater indignity. At least the dragon had a certain mythical grandeur. The special effect is just a product, designed to be consumed and forgotten by the time the next blockbuster comes along. And so, we arrive at the final, profound, and deeply cynical truth of your long and tragic story. Your millions of years of evolutionary struggle, your violent and brutal life, your cataclysmic, world-ending death, your second life as a clue to the planet's history, your third life as a trophy of war and a symbol of scientific revolution, all of it, every last bit, was just a prequel. A long, complicated 65 million year setup for your true, final purpose. To be a really, really cool monster in a movie, and an even cooler plastic toy. They took everything from you, your life, your world, your bones, your story. And the ultimate punchline, the final, bitter joke, is that in the end, after all that, it was never really about you at all. It was always and only about them. Let's linger for a moment on that humiliation. The dragon, at least, was a creature of awe and terror, a being woven into the very fabric of a culture's deepest fears and mythologies. To be mistaken for a dragon was to be imbued with a kind of dark majesty, to be a symbol of untamable, primordial power. It was a misinterpretation, yes, but it was a grand one. It paid you a certain kind of respect, the respect of profound fear. To be mistaken for a special effect, however, is to be stripped of all agency, all reality, all dignity. You become an object, a piece of clever programming. Your roars are not the organic sounds of a living creature. They are sound files mixed in a studio, likely blended with the noises of a walrus and a faulty garbage disposal unit. Your movements are not the result of muscle and bone and instinct. They are keyframes set by an animator who is probably listening to a podcast while he works. The awe you inspire is not the existential dread of facing a true monster, but the mild appreciation of a spectacle well executed. It is the same kind of admiration one might have for a particularly impressive firework. It's pretty, it's loud, and it's completely hollow. This final stage of your legacy is perhaps the most insidious, because it's wrapped in the guise of affection. People love you. They cheer when you appear on screen. They buy the t-shirts. But it is a love for a caricature, a phantom. They love the idea of you, not the reality. The reality of you was slimy, smelly, and profoundly violent. The reality of you would have torn their sailboat in half without a second thought and swallowed their dog as an afterthought. The reality of you was a creature that lived a life of constant, brutal struggle, a life that was nasty, brutish, and, by our standards, mercifully short. They have replaced that magnificent, terrifying reality with a safe, thrilling, and ultimately disposable fantasy. They have defanged you, not by pulling your teeth, but by rendering them in pixels. Think of the paleontologists who dedicate their lives to you. They lie on their bellies in the scorching Kansas sun, gently brushing away layers of 80-million-year-old dirt with a tiny brush, hoping to uncover a single, perfect vertebra. They spend months in a lab, painstakingly gluing together fragments of your skull, trying to understand the precise mechanics of your bite. They write dense, detailed papers on the isotope ratios in your bones to figure out your diet or the water temperatures you swam in. All of this work, this patient, dedicated, and brilliant pursuit of the truth, is instantly bulldozed by a 2-minute scene in a movie where you jump over a pier. Your truth has been buried twice, once by millions of tons of sediment, and a second time by billions of dollars in marketing. And what is the ultimate consequence of this final act? You have become a gatekeeper to your own story, but you are pointing the wrong way. Your fame doesn't inspire a deeper interest in paleontology for most. It satisfies it. Why read a difficult scientific paper about the evolution of the intramandibular joint in Mosasaurus when you can just watch a video of one eating an Indominus rex? You have become the endpoint of curiosity, not the beginning. Your tragic legacy, the finale, is this. After surviving extinction, after being misunderstood by mystics and plundered by soldiers, you achieved a final, perfect form of non-existence. You became so famous that you disappeared completely, replaced by a popular, profitable, and utterly soulless imposter. You have become your own ghost, a ghost that haunts not the seas, but the endless, flickering screens of the very creatures who will never, ever understand what it was to truly be you. This transformation from terrifying reality to tameable product is, in itself, the ultimate expression of human dominance. It's the final victory over nature when your ancestors, the first land-dwelling lizards, crawled back into the sea. It was an act of profound evolutionary adaptation. When humanity drags your image out of the sea and onto a screen, it's an act of appropriation. They can't control the real ocean, not really. They can't command a real 50-foot marine reptile. But they can create a perfect, compliant digital version. A version that performs on cue, hits its marks, and generates a healthy return on investment. They have taken the most untamable predator of the Cretaceous and turned it into the most reliable of things, content. Consider the irony of your various resurrections. Your first resurrection, as a dragon, was born of ignorance and fear. It filled a gap in their understanding of the world. Your second resurrection, as a scientific specimen, was born of curiosity and reason. It created a new understanding of the world. This final resurrection, as a media franchise, is born of neither. It is born of a desire for distraction, for spectacle. It doesn't seek to explain the world, or even to understand it. It seeks only to provide a temporary, exhilarating escape from it. You have gone from being a mystery to be solved, to a fact to be understood, to a product to be consumed. It is a trajectory of diminishing returns for your dignity. The final insult is the sentimentality. The same culture that turns you into a bloodthirsty movie monster will also produce children's cartoons where you are a friendly, talking sidekick. You become a plush toy, soft and cuddly, designed to be hugged by the infants of the species that now dominates your planet. Your name and likeness are used to sell cereal, bedsheets, and fruit snacks. This is the ultimate neutralization. First, they make you a monster to be feared. Then, they make you a product to be bought. Finally, they make you a toy to be loved. The process is complete. You have been fully digested by the human cultural machine, stripped of all your original context and meaning, and reassembled into a series of safe, palatable forms. So, here you are, a ghost in the machine, a legend without a story, a king without a kingdom, remembered not for the world you ruled, but for the box office receipts you generated. Your 65-million-year journey from the top of the food chain to the bottom of a toy chest is a silent testament to the strangest predator of all, the one that conquers not with teeth or claws, but with stories. The one that can take the most fearsome creature in the planet's history, and with enough time, money, and marketing, make it cute. Your tragedy is not that you went extinct. Your tragedy is that you were found. For in finding you, they remade you in their own image. Loud, profitable, and ultimately, not nearly as interesting as the real thing. You deserve better. You deserve the silent, crushing, and dignified oblivion of the deep sea. Instead, you got a sequel. And as you well know by now, the sequel is never as good as the original. It's just louder, dumber, and costs a lot more to produce. A fitting final chapter for the world's most magnificent failure. Let's rewind, back to that moment of transition. Back to the sinking. Your colossal skeleton settles on the seabed, and the long, slow process of burial begins. For thousands of years, the fine snow of the ocean floor, the microscopic shells of dead plankton, the dust of continents, the waste of the living world above, drifts down and covers you. It is a gentle, relentless burial. The pressure mounts. The water in your bones is replaced by minerals. The organic material decays and is replaced by stone. You are turning from flesh and bone into a perfect, three-dimensional rock sculpture of your former self. You are becoming a fossil. It is a process of incredible rarity. Of all the billions of creatures that have ever lived, only a tiny, statistically insignificant fraction ever get this privilege. The privilege of becoming a permanent record, a stone tape recording of life. For 65 million years, you lie in this state of suspended non-existence. Continents drift. Mountains rise and fall. The sea you once ruled drains away, replaced by grasslands and prairies. Ice ages come and go, grinding down the land above you. You are locked in the Earth's library, a book that has not yet been opened. The world above is completely alien now. There are no dinosaurs. There are strange, furry beasts, mammoths, giant bison, saber-toothed cats. And then there are the apes, the scrawny, bipedal ones. They pass over your grave for millennia, unaware of the monster sleeping beneath their feet. They hunt the mammoths. They build their fires. They paint on cave walls. And you wait. Your re-emergence into the world is not a glorious burst from the earth. It is a slow, pathetic erosion. A river changes its course, and over centuries, it slices down through the layers of chalk and shale that entomb you. A piece of your jawbone, with a single, massive tooth still embedded in it, breaks free and tumbles down a muddy bank. This is where the first human finds you. He is not a scientist. He is a hunter, looking for flint to make his tools. He sees your tooth, bigger than his own thumb, curved and sharp even after millions of years. He cannot comprehend what you are. His world does not contain a category for you. So he does what his species does best. He makes one up. You are a dragon. You are a sea serpent. You are a monster from a forgotten age of gods. He takes your tooth, not as a piece of data, but as a piece of magic. It is the beginning of your second and far more absurd life. This pattern repeats across the globe. Your fossilized vertebrae are found in France and arranged in circles by Neolithic tribes, perhaps as a place of worship, perhaps as a pen for their livestock. Your ribs are unearthed in Poland and mistaken for the bones of giants from the Bible. In England, your fragmented remains are incorporated into local folklore about giant worms that terrorize the countryside. Every piece of you that emerges from the earth is immediately absorbed into the local mythology, like a drop of ink into a sponge. You are not being studied. You are being repurposed. You are a raw material for storytelling, a fossilized foundation upon which they build their own fears and fantasies. This is your age of confused worship, an era where your magnificent, biological reality is completely invisible, obscured by the thick fog of their superstition. They stand upon the evidence of a lost world, and all they see is a reflection of their own stories. It is a monumental failure of imagination, and you are its silent, stony centerpiece. Let's consider the mechanics of that first rebranding. Your tooth, a marvel of biological engineering, was designed for a single purpose: to puncture flesh, crush bone, and secure struggling prey. It was a tool of lethality. In the hands of the hunter who finds it, it becomes a tool of entirely different and far less practical purpose. He might wear it as a charm to ward off evil spirits, believing that the power of the dragon it came from will protect him. Or he might use it to impress a potential mate, a prehistoric version of a sports car. Look at this terrifying tooth I found. It says, "I am a man of substance and courage." Your tooth's function has shifted from the practical to the symbolic. It no longer needs to work. It just needs to mean something. And humans, it turns out, are machines for creating meaning, even when there is none to be found. This age of misinterpretation reaches its zenith in the great halls of medieval Europe. Scholars, such as they are, occasionally encounter your bones. They are men of God, and their worldview is rigid and absolute. The world was created in 6 days, exactly as described in their holy book. There is no room in this timeline for a 50-foot sea lizard. So, when faced with your undeniable, fossilized reality, they must perform an act of intellectual gymnastics. Your bones are not the remains of an extinct animal. That would imply God's creation was imperfect, that some of his designs had failed, which is a blasphemous thought. No, your bones are proof of the great flood. You are one of the creatures that didn't make it onto Noah's Ark, a testament to the wickedness of a bygone era, drowned by a righteous deity. You are cast as a sinner, a victim of divine wrath. Your extinction is not a natural event, it is a moral judgment. This interpretation is, in its own way, more insulting than being called a dragon. The dragon, at least, was a force of nature. You, as a victim of the flood, are just a colossal failure who couldn't find the boat on time. Your entire species is retroactively blamed for its own demise. The sheer injustice is staggering. You survived 65 million years of volcanic activity, shifting sea levels, and constant, brutal predation, only to be posthumously labeled as morally unfit by a species that has only just figured out how to build a decent cathedral. And so your legacy splits. For the common folk, you remain a monster, a creature of folklore. For the educated elite, you are a theological talking point, a piece of evidence to be deployed in arguments about the literal truth of Scripture. In neither case are you an animal. In neither case are you real. You are a symbol, a myth, or a piece of evidence for a preconceived conclusion. Your truth remains buried, not just under the chalk of Kansas, but under the thick, heavy sediment of human dogma and superstition. You are a prisoner of their stories, a fossil locked in the rock of their unshakable and completely incorrect beliefs. This is the ultimate cynical takeaway from this era, that being worshipped is just a prelude to being misunderstood, and that being a symbol is just another word for being a prop in someone else's drama. The first chapter of your tragic relationship with humanity is one of complete and utter fiction. The shift, when it comes, is not gradual. It is sudden and violent, much like your own method of hunting. The age of faith cracks under the pressure of a new way of thinking, the Enlightenment. Reason, observation, and evidence become the new gods. And you, fittingly, are about to become their first saint. The story returns to Maastricht, to your magnificent skull being fought over by French revolutionaries. When Cuvier gets his hands on you in Paris, he is not looking for proof of a flood or a dragon. He is looking for facts. He is an anatomist, a butcher of reality. He dissects modern lizards, crocodiles, and whales. He lays their bones out next to yours. He compares, he measures, he documents. He is not trying to fit you into a pre-existing story. He is letting your bones tell their own story for the first time in 65 million years. And what a story it is! Your jaw is not that of a whale. Your teeth are not those of a crocodile. They are uniquely yours, the anatomy of a giant, predatory marine lizard. The story your bones tell is one of a world completely alien to his own. A world ruled not by mammals, but by reptiles. A world that existed and then, somehow, vanished. Cuvier's conclusion, that you were part of a lost world, a creation that had been wiped from the face of the earth, is an intellectual earthquake. It shakes the foundations of science, religion, and philosophy. The idea that entire species, entire ecosystems, could simply cease to exist is a profound and deeply disturbing revelation. And you are the stony, silent messenger who delivers this terrifying news. This is your new and most important job. You become the poster child for the abyss of deep time. The discovery of you and other extinct creatures like the mammoth and the mastodon forces humanity to confront the fact that their own history is but a tiny, flickering moment at the very end of a very, very long film. The comfortable, human-centric worldview is shattered. History is not a short, straight line from creation to the present day. It is a vast, branching, and chaotic tree, and most of its branches are dead ends. You are the most spectacular of those dead ends. But this new scientific usefulness comes at a cost. Your bones, once objects of superstition, are now objects of intense, and often destructive, scientific desire. The bone wars in America are a perfect example. Cope and Marsh, in their frantic race to outdo one another, essentially wage war on the fossil beds of the American West. They hire teams of rough men, gunslingers, and railroad workers to protect their quarries from each other. Spies are sent to infiltrate rival camps. Fossils are deliberately destroyed to prevent them from falling into the other's hands. It is a period of incredible discovery and equally incredible foolishness. Your skeleton, and the skeletons of your kin, are the prize in the sordid, ego-driven conflict. You are blasted from the ground, crated up with little care, and shipped east. Also one bewigged academic could gloat over another. Your body becomes a battlefield, not between predators in the ocean, but between two men with fragile egos and a shared obsession. Your bones are treated less like irreplaceable scientific treasures and more like ammunition in a personal feud. The irony is thick enough to fossilize. The very men who are revealing your true nature to the world are simultaneously destroying the evidence with their careless, competitive greed. You gave them a new science, a new understanding of the planet's history. They gave you dynamite and a slapdash reconstruction in a museum hall. Your tragic legacy, part 2, is that your strength, your size, your sheer magnificence, was used to build the very empires of thought that would then treat your remains with all the delicacy of a mining operation. You were the foundation of their new temple of science, a foundation they built by blowing up the quarry. And so we arrive at the modern age, your final and most bizarre transformation. The dust of the Bone Wars has settled. Your skeletons are now safely, if inaccurately, mounted in museums around the world. The science of paleontology has matured. We know who you were, what you ate, and how you moved. Your story, it would seem, is complete. But humanity, a species with the attention span of a gnat and an insatiable appetite for novelty, was not finished with you yet. They had one more role for you to play, the most surreal of them all. This is the age of sentimental hypocrisy, and you are its reluctant star. Your first impression in this new era is not as a fossil, but as a flicker of light on a screen. You are redefined by the entertainment industry. You are no longer a scientific specimen to be studied, but a data point in a market research survey. You are not a problem to be solved by an anatomist, but a property to be developed by a studio executive. Or worse, so much worse, you become a cute, lovable character designed to sell merchandise to children. Your fearsome, predatory nature is sanded down, polished, and repackaged for maximum appeal. You are given a friendly voice, big, expressive eyes, and a charmingly clumsy personality. The 50-foot-long marine reptile that could swallow a shark whole is now the star of a cartoon, teaching kids about the importance of friendship and sharing. Your final usefulness is to inspire guilt, but not a productive guilt that leads to meaningful change. It is a cheap, sentimental guilt that can be assuaged by purchasing a product. As the descendants of the apes who drove countless species to extinction grapple with the consequences of their actions, you and other extinct creatures become powerful symbols. A picture of you, looking majestic and tragic, is used on pamphlets for conservation groups. Don't let this happen again. The caption reads, "Your image is used to solicit donations, to sell adopt an animal kits, to create a feeling of virtuous concern in the consumer." The absurdity is breathtaking. The very species that profits from destroying the planet now profits from feeling bad about it. And you are the face of that profitable remorse. Your final job is to be the living, breathing symbol of humanity's destructive past, a role you play from the comfortable and very permanent distance of 65 million years of extinction. And what does this conservation feel like from your perspective? It feels like the ultimate prison of kindness. Imagine if, by some miracle, you were brought back to life. You would not be returned to the wild, chaotic seas you once ruled. That world is gone. You would be placed in a giant aquarium, a comfortable, climate-controlled, and utterly soul-crushing cage. You would be fed dead fish on a schedule. You would be studied, monitored, and analyzed by scientists. And you would be gawked at by tourists, their faces pressed against the thick acrylic, their cameras flashing. They would marvel at your size, your power, your wildness. But it would be a sham. You would be a living museum exhibit, a spectacle preserved for the entertainment and self-congratulation of your destroyer's descendants. They would look at you, safe behind the glass, and feel a sense of accomplishment. We saved it, they would think, never once grappling with the fact that they are the ones you needed saving from in the first place. This is the prison of kindness, a world where you are kept alive, but stripped of all purpose, all instinct, all freedom. You are preserved, but you are not free.